Welcome to Passage to Profit. I'm Richard Gerhardt, founder of Gerhardt Law, a full-service intellectual property law firm.
And I am Elizabeth Gerhardt. I'm not a lawyer, but I work in a law firm. And if you have a question about intellectual property, patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, anything, litigation, strategy.
I love it when you say that stuff.
Richard is the man you want to call.
All near and dear to my heart. Yeah, I love intellectual property, and I've been passionate about it for many, many years. And I'm thrilled to be here to talk with new businesses about their intellectual property and about their stories.
So we are at the Gerhardt Law Conference Room. The employees still have not come back. We are doing this under quarantine. Yay, COVID. So excuse the sound quality if it's not quite perfection. Our amazing producer, Noah, works as much miracle magic as he can on these Zoom recordings, but it's not always as pretty as what he does in the studio. We are hoping one of these days to get back into New York in the studio. The people here today are welcome to come back in the studio when we get back in there. So let's jump into it. IP in the news, Richard.
IP in the news. Well, today we're going to be talking a little bit about trademarks. So we usually talk about trademarks, patents, and copyrights. Remember, for our listeners who are less familiar with those topics, trademarks protect brands, patents protect ideas and inventions, and copyrights protect original works of expression like music and books and movies and all those sorts of things. But a new trend is emerging in the intellectual property world and in the celebrity world. Celebrities are getting more and more trademarks, and they're trademarking their names, and they're trademarking different pieces of work, their artwork. They're trademarking the titles of movies and songs, and it's really pretty interesting because for a long time in the artistic community, it was considered sort of too commercial to actually file for a trademark at the trademark office. It was considered a step down from their artistic integrity. But the facts of modern life are such that now trademarks are certainly part of the commercialization of the artist's product, and they protect them. And there are even some celebrities who are trademarking the names of their kids. So it's really turned out to be quite a phenomenon now, and it just shows how the law is adapting.
So yes, we looked up this article by Daniel Grant. It was online, and it was called "The Art of the Deal: Why More Artists Are Getting Trademarks." And he starts out with Bob Timberlake, not Justin Timberlake's father, an 83-year-old artist in Lexington, North Carolina, and he has a range of products. And he trademarked his name a long time ago, and he has had people challenge his trademark. And he has won because he has kept his brand strong by using the trademark. And he filed early, and he can show that he uses it in these categories, and the people that have challenged him have lost in court.
Absolutely. And we have a special guest with us today, Kenya Gibson from Iheart Media. Hi, Kenya. Welcome.
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Do you think Iheart is trademarked?
Oh, I'm pretty sure we are. So it's funny. I have a little story, and we have a couple minutes about the whole Iheart thing. So there was a time where Iheart, before it was Iheart, we were Clear Channel back in the day, and that we didn't want to be called Iheart. Isn't that so funny? The CEO at the time didn't like the whole Iheart name thing, and then realized that there was something to be said about this little app that we created called the Iheart Radio app. And then, lo and behold, here we are today with Iheart Media. So it's pretty interesting how that was once a bad idea that has turned into a very good one for us throughout all these years.
Absolutely. Yes. And you're also a regular guest on Wayno's podcast. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, it's funny because we Wayno's podcast is going to be launching, we hope, September. But we've been doing this show called Free Throws, and basically Free Throws is a mentorship platform where we've been bringing on mentors from all different types of walk of life. So we've had music mentors, we've had some celebrities that have come on to give advice, we've had some sports figures come on and give advice. So basically, anybody can come on and have the opportunity to ask their favorite music artist or favorite sports player advice about how to be successful in life. And we've been building this during quarantine, and it's been doing really well, thank God. So yeah, so another thing to be working on.
We've done a little bit of investigative work around a few trademark issues for that too.
Yeah.
And so having Kenya involved in it as a regular on Passage to Profit, I think her trademark awareness maybe has gone up a little bit. And so we're being extra cautious, with the podcast. So
yeah, for sure. You've definitely been helping us in that space, and we appreciate it. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I've learned through all of this is you could be on a really big platform, but if you don't have ownership of what you're creating, none of that really means much at the end of the day. So we're all about creativity, but we're also all about owning that intellectual property. And you've been able to help us with that. So we appreciate it.
Oh, our complete and total pleasure. And the bigger you get, the more people want to ride your coattails. And so that's an important consideration as your business or your service is growing. You want to protect your brand, and so very, very important to consider trademark issues. And you want to make sure that somebody else doesn't already have a similar trademark that could block you from moving forward too. And you don't want to invest years of branding and advertising and expenditures, and then only to find out somebody in California has been using the same name for a similar product, and they find out about you, and now you've got a big legal problem. So if you are starting a business, doing a trademark early, at least doing a trademark search, and then filing for that federal trademark protection as soon as you can is really important business approach. It's not that expensive, and it's definitely worth the investment to protect your brand and your company's reputation. So
and you need to call Iheart Law to do that. Why would you not?
So by all means, give us a shout, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do you want to talk just very briefly now about the Chinese and trademarks? So people think that China just rips off everything willy-nilly and but that's not true. And you can get your trademark that you have on your goods in the United States in China as well. So if you have your trademark in China, you actually do get protection in China. The Chinese don't just steal everything like people think. Intellectual property works, maybe not to exactly the same degree it works in the United States, but it's getting better every day in China.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And it used to be when you filed a trademark lawsuit in China that you were limited to very minor damages. And so it was hardly even worth doing that. But the Chinese law changed a couple of years ago, and you can get substantial damages for trademark infringement now. And the cost of filing IP in China, both patents and trademarks, is still pretty low. It's roughly a third of what you would pay for that protection in the US. So while enforcement of intellectual property in China is still difficult, culturally they're not used to the idea, and the Chinese economy is not built on innovation. It's built on borrowing other ideas. So they don't have strong intellectual property laws yet, but they have gradually been improving over the years. And trademarks is one area where you can still get, where you can get pretty good value for the investment there. So it's not expensive, and if you're going to be making something in China or selling it there, definitely consider foreign Chinese trademarks.
So without further ado, we have 4 amazing people on here today to talk about their companies. As we said, we are always pushing the limits of technology, pushing towards the future. The companies of tomorrow are here on Passage to Profit today. So without further ado,
we'd like to introduce Marc Alterman. Marc Alterman from MA33 Strategies. And we'll be talking about Marc with him about his successes in creating a manufacturing business over $25 million. But we have to stop for a break first, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Passage to Profit on WOR 710, the voice of New York. We'll be right back with Marc after this message. Welcome back, listeners. We're here with Marc Alterman. Marc, great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks, Richard. Thanks, Elizabeth. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today to discuss a variety of issues. But first, I have to say, Richard, I really enjoyed your comment about trademarking celebrity names, because I remember hearing about a story a long time ago with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Bloomingdale, who had a little general store up in New England somewhere. I can't remember whether it was Vermont or perhaps New Hampshire. And he was just going along, running his little business successfully for many years. And suddenly he received a letter from Mr. Bloomingdale in New York City. And they took exception to Mr. Bloomingdale calling his store Bloomingdale's. And unfortunately, the little Mr. Bloomingdale, I think, lost that case. So I can't say whether he had trademarked his name before or after, but I just felt sorry for the guy, because it really was his name, and he should have been able to hang it on the outside of his building.
You know, there's certainly a great argument for that people should be able to use their own name in business. But, you know, when you come up against the big chains, the big stores with a lot of money, it can be tough to defend.
Sure.
And trademarks are really all about first use. Whoever uses the word first is the one that has the superior rights.
Again, I just want to say thank you to you for asking me to join the show today. I know that at the Iheart firm, you're really passionate about helping people build their businesses, and it's a passion that I share. I work to help businesses grow and really find their path to sustainable profits. At my current company, MA33 Strategies, I work with entrepreneurs and executives to help them develop and implement strategies to move their companies forward. Now, I know you work with many inventors and startup companies, and those folks are really creative and they have wonderful ideas, and I'm sure they can tell you all about them, as I'm sure we're going to hear from Shari and Natalia and Ben later in the program today. But really what they may not always do is understand how to move their business forward. And that's where I come into play and try to help companies develop the confidence in the direction that they're going, so they can grow, build their companies, and sustain their profitability well into the future.
So that's a great point, and I completely agree. What percentage of entrepreneurs come to you wanting help who really haven't thought through the execution side of the business? Maybe they have a great idea, but they are just really don't really have a complete business plan, or don't really understand everything that needs to be done to move forward.
It really varies, Richard. I think you do see a number of people who have a good idea and you never hear from them again, quite honestly. They don't really have a plan in place. They have an idea, but that's really all they have. And what they lack is kind of confidence in order to move forward with a plan. They don't have a business model. They may not have a startup plan. They may not have financing. But this can also be true for companies that are a little bit further along in the process, who may have started and reached a certain stage, but just don't know how to move past that stage. I think the key to running a successful company, and really the key to really any endeavor that we're going to take on in life, is having a plan. Over the years, I managed several companies, culminating in nearly 20 years with a mid-sized manufacturing and distribution company. As you said, we had sales of pretty close to $25 million. We had about 115 employees at one point. And the key was really having a plan. I was the president and CEO of that company for many years. And I learned a lot of lessons. And honestly, I learned some of them the hard way. I earned a few of the white hairs that are in my head now, and hopefully a little wisdom that went along with that. But I learned to get a good night's sleep. And the way to get a good night's sleep is to have a plan and to execute your plan.
So can I ask you then, Mark, it's kind of hard to have a plan right now for a lot of people because we are in the middle of the COVID epidemic. So what strategies do you advise for small to medium-sized companies to employ right now? And what can they put in their planning right now to stay successful?
Well, I think, Elizabeth, that what we all need to recognize is that planning is really a process, and it's appropriate at any time for any business. Certainly, as we're faced with the current COVID crisis, it's more urgent in some respects. But there's never a wrong time to do a strategic plan. And that's true with respect to the stage of a business that you're at, whether you're a startup, whether you're midlife, whether you're a mature business in a mature industry. It's always important to have a plan. Now, I think what companies need to do is do an assessment. And the strategic planning process is really a three-part undertaking that companies should go through, and I try to work with clients in exactly this way. The first thing, as I said, you need to do an assessment. That assessment looks both internally and externally at your business. You have to internally assess what your strengths and weaknesses are, and you have to look outside to know what your opportunities and threats are. And that's a process that takes a lot of time and effort. Normally, I would interview key stakeholders in the company to extract that information and prepare what most people know as a SWOT analysis, which is, as I said, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Before I get to the other steps in the process, as it relates to COVID, as the world has pretty much changed radically in just the last 3 or 4 months, there's nothing more important that a company can do now than take a step back, assess its situation, what their position is, what's their SWOT now. Even if they did it 3 months ago, nothing is the same as it was then. That's the first step.
Yeah, I think when you and I spoke before too, one important thing you mentioned was to really understand and take advantage of the new technologies because they're probably not going away.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are opportunities that are out there in terms of technology, and I'm sure Ben can speak to these perhaps a little bit later in our program. There are many technologies such as the ones we're using here now on Zoom.
You know, when we're talking about COVID, Mark, one thing I think is that you have to try to understand your market and who your target audience is, and then you have to understand how much are they affected by COVID, and how are the restrictions and the sheltering in place and the gradual reopening, how much of that is really directly affecting your business? Because if you have a restaurant, obviously, the restrictions are going to have a much different effect than maybe if you're an accountant or you're in a service business where things really haven't, the way you interact with clients really hasn't changed that much. So I think a first step for people who are trying to do this planning is making sure that they really understand who their markets are, who their customers are, and then assessing, well, what kind of impact is the current environment going to have on their base?
Those are all great points, Richard, and it points out this. Strategic planning is really a process. There's no one strategy or no one plan that's going to be suitable for all businesses. Really, as I said, it's a process, and the outward assessment and analysis is really just the first step in the process that has to take place. There are other follow-on things, but clearly in this circumstance, it's critical to move forward with that assessment because we're in a very fluid environment. And maybe that's something you need to do it's certainly something you need to do on a regular basis for any business at any time. It's all the more urgent in the current environment to look at these things as quickly and as frequently as need be. As you know, the rules are changing every week in terms of what people are allowed to do.
So that's great advice, Mark. And I think you have fantastic ideas and input. We have to take a quick break now for a commercial break, but we'll be right back. You're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our special guest this evening is Marc Alterman, and we'll be right back after this message.
So welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WOR 710, the voice of New York. We are so happy to be here with our special guest, Marc Alterman from M33 Strategies. And we have been talking about how you develop strategies to grow your company during any time, COVID times, regular times. So, Marc, you had gone through number one. What's number two?
Well, number two in the process that we were just discussing, Elizabeth, is for a company to really identify its vision, its mission, and its core values. Now, I thought for years that these were just things that people put on a plaque on a wall in the lobby of their building, or maybe put them up on their website. But what I came to realize in running a company for many, many years was really they provide the framework for the company moving forward. All of your decisions can be made easier when you have a set of standards or a framework that you're working with. Your big decisions are made easier because they have to be consistent with those standards, and your small decisions are just made more quickly because you know what the standards are.
Yeah. So, Marc, in your experience, are these necessarily, does a company's personality, I like to think of it sometimes as a personality, is that something that's deliberate and decided by the team, or is that just something that evolves? And once it evolves, can it be changed?
Well, I think the answer is kind of yes and yes. It should absolutely be deliberate. It's important for a company to have a vision and a mission that it knows where it's going. As I like to say, your vision is akin to when you pull your car out of the driveway. You need to know what your destination is, and your vision is really the destination for your business. Your mission statement is your path. How are you going to get there? What are the directions that you're going to take and the things that you're going to do in order to reach your vision? Now, your vision can be something very aspirational. It can be very simple. And one of my favorites is the vision statement of the Disney company. Now, we all know Disney and we all associate it with certain things. Their vision statement is really simple and concise. It's to make people happy. If all their employees understand their vision, every interaction that they have with their guests will be held to that standard. Are they making people happy?
Absolutely. And I think one thing about what you're doing, so as entrepreneurs and business owners, we often hear work on your business, not in your business. And it's kind of like, what does that mean? And I think what you're doing is you work on your business. So the reason why you have your business, and working in your business is taking phone calls and putting out fires, whatever. So working on your business is really eventually what's going to make you more successful, right?
I agree entirely. There was a great quote that I read, and I have it on my website, and it says this: when you hit the pause button on a machine, the machine stops. When you hit the pause button for a human being, we start. When we take a step back and we stop, we start to think. And when you start to think and you start to assess, you can start to imagine where you want to go and imagine your path forward. So I think those are really critical things. And again, it's important to have a clear vision, a clear mission, and a clear set of values to move your business forward.
Yeah, I'm reminded by Bill Gates, and his vision was a computer in every home.
Exactly.
The simpler you can make it, the better. But when you think about that, that is just so powerful because it's so clear, and you certainly achieved that. And
Richard, I worked with a company in the fall. They were a distribution company, about a $40 million national distribution company. And they were distributing personal protection equipment, which is, this was before COVID that I was working with them. But it was mostly geared towards industrial, not healthcare. But we came up with a vision statement for them, and it was pretty simple and direct and also aspirational and inspiring. And that vision statement was preventing injuries and saving lives every day. Simple. Let everybody knew what they were doing when they came into work and the importance of what they were doing when they came to work.
I just was curious, like, what were some steps in terms of growth for you and some strategies that you can share there?
Well, I think that's really part of phase 3 of the things that I was talking about before, Kenya. We mentioned initially having an assessment. Secondly, determining what your mission and your vision and your values are. And the third thing is really developing your plan. So what we did is we established very clear and specific and compelling objectives for the company. And those ranged from financial goals and objectives to operational improvements that we sought to implement to things as important as company culture, to try to create the right environment for all the people who worked at the company and to get them engaged in growing the business. The second thing we did was really compile a list of actions and policies that were going to help us move towards those objectives. And again, those were clearly defined so everybody knew what we were doing. The third thing we had to do was create organizational structures and decision-making processes and information systems so we could implement the programs that we were going to head towards our objectives. And there are a few other things as well. Naturally, we had to allocate resources. We didn't have endless money to do these things.
There's a lot in that. Can you give us like just a few kind of specific examples of the types of steps that you maybe created in those circumstances? Like, make sure that everybody's, got the right benefits, or, make sure that the machines are running with only a 5% downtime or something. Can you give us some examples?
Sure. Well, those are both very good examples. And in the first, I'll talk about issues of operational excellence. And we set a goal to operate in an excellent manner. And some of the things that we tried to do for that were to identify particular processes within our manufacturing department that required improvement. And we set a goal of improving 10 separate operations or processes each year. So we knew that when we set out, we had to identify those 10 things that we wanted to improve. We had to figure out how we were going to improve them. And importantly, we had to figure out how we were going to measure those improvements. And that was one example of a critical thing that we moved forward on. We specifically wanted to do things in manufacturing. It's important to have a good first pass yield. In other words, when something's coming off a machine, you want it to be right the first time and not have to make a bunch of adjustments to that. So we set goals for ourselves as to how we wanted to improve those things and how to measure them.
That's awesome. So we're coming to the end of this segment. Kenya, did you have anything else you wanted to ask quickly?
No, I think, it's great information. You touched on something, I think, which is really super important, especially with the times that we're going through in regards to, corporate culture and just, all the changes socially that we've just been kind of enduring as a country. And I think that's a big conversation piece right now as we transition as, the United States of America. So
I think transparency is really, really critical for businesses at this point. I think it's critical anytime. I think it's really critical now. Most people are a little bit uncertain under the best of times what's going on with their company. And I think it's that uncertainty that keeps them from being as productive as they might be. And it's just good human nature to try to keep people happy as much as you can. These are your colleagues. You should be concerned about them.
Absolutely. Uncertainty is a killer. It's a productivity killer. It's just, I agree 100%. So unfortunately, we could talk about this for hours.
I could, for sure.
Maybe we'll do it another show. We'll have you back on another show. So
I'd love to.
Right now we have to wrap up for this segment. So you are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WOR 710 with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our special guest, Marc Alterman. We will be right back. And if you missed any of this, it'll be on the podcast tomorrow. And stay tuned for some amazing companies coming up. You don't want to miss this. Welcome back, listeners. Now we have an executive spotlight, Ben Jomek. He is an AI specialist. So but he can explain it so normal people can understand it. Artificial intelligence. So he's like, your super duper tech guy, which is very cool.
Can I get some of that?
He's a Forbes 30 under 30 recognized entrepreneur in the AI product development space. So welcome, Ben. We are all just thrilled to meet you and to hear about AI and explained in normal terms.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things we try and focus on in our company. At Actuate, we build AI that can turn any camera into a smart camera. And if you've been paying attention to the news, there's been a lot of controversy in this space, especially around facial recognition. And so in a nutshell, what we try and do is build technology that can provide the best safety and security to any organization, detecting things like guns, intruders, social distancing violations, and loitering, but without identifying specific individuals or identifying faces, so that we can respect privacy and reduce bias while delivering the best AI-powered security to any organization. We generally work with education and corporate customers and are just spinning up a few projects with the Department of Defense as well.
That's great. So how does it kind of work? You have a camera and then you have somebody looking at a camera, or are they monitoring the output from the camera? Is it all being recorded? Kind of how does the system work?
Yeah, so we connect with all of the hardware that our customers already have. So something like 95% of large companies and schools have hundreds of cameras deployed, and we don't want to displace that. We connect to those cameras, and then we pipe that through our own software. Because if you see right now, what you described is actually pretty common. Companies will have 2 or 3 hourly employees watching security camera feeds, but we find that those 2 to 3 people are often trying to manage 200 to 800 cameras in total. It's just not possible for a human to watch more than, say, 2 or 3 screens at any given time. And so what our technology does is we watch them for them. And whenever we identify something of interest, such as a gun, social distancing violation, people where they're not supposed to be, crowds above a certain number of people in a given location, we then send that to the customer's security team so that they only evaluate the footage that has a risk in it and only spend their time on high value activities versus sitting there looking at a ton of screens and frankly getting really bored.
So what happens if, say, in elementary school, the AI picks up somebody right at the doors and it looks like they have a gun?
The number one thing that we have a conversation with our education customers is that we are not the first investment that you make. Realistically, we're the third investment that you make in security. First, you have to have cameras. Luckily, I think 89% of elementary schools across the country do, so that box is checked. But number two is that you already need to have plans in place. You need to have active shooter plans. You need to have overall lockdown plans, because our technology doesn't solve the problem. We don't magically remove the weapon. What we do is we allow you to activate those active shooter plans within 5 seconds instead of the 5 to 15 minutes it takes organizations today. That directly saves lives and results in people getting apprehended faster.
So what motivated you to get into this line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So both me and my co-founder, Sunny Tai, come from a background of public service. Sunny actually left South Africa, where he grew up, because of the gun violence there, and then was a U.S. Marine captain for almost 10 years. So he's always wanted to do something about the gun violence problem in society. As for myself, while I haven't served, both my parents are U.S. government officers, and I grew up overseas under Marine protection. So the idea of using technology to make organizations safer deeply connected with my background. And that was only increased after I spent a number of years at Microsoft, leading a team of data scientists and engineers. And Sunny was actually the person who came up with the idea. And when he came to me with the concept of using technology to make organizations safer, that just connected, and we've been working on it ever since.
In layman's terms, how does your software do this compared to other software? What kind of analysis is performed by the computer? And do the computers that do this have to be like really big and powerful?
Yeah, so they do. They have to be extremely big and powerful. And so our service is actually, it's a service. It's not a piece of software or a piece of hardware. So we connect to the cameras over the internet and run it on our own servers, which allows us to deliver this extremely cheaply, even though the hardware that you need to do the processing is really, really expensive. And in terms of the technical side of things, I mean, there's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo here, which I won't get into. But in a nutshell, what differentiates the type of technology that we use now, which is called deep learning and has really been developed only over the past few years, and traditional methods, is that we teach the computer what a gun looks like. And it's looking at camera feeds like a human would, looking for the contours of a weapon. Whereas traditionally, you could only really say, oh, there's an object about this size that's moving at about this speed, which is really, really inaccurate. And kind of connecting back to your key interest, we've actually protected most of this through trade secrets. And while we have significant trademarks that we're currently in discussions about expanding, I think software patents are a little bit more controversial than patents are in a lot of other spaces. So we've decided to avoid the method patent approach, and our system is completely proprietary and held a secret.
I was looking at Ben's website for the company, and what I noticed, Ben, and you mentioned it in your introduction regarding monitoring social distancing. 3 months ago, none of us knew anything about social distancing or very little. And I was just curious, how are you guys prepared to pivot so quickly to address that need?
Yeah, so one of the big things is, I think, as you said yourself, Mark, especially in these turbulent environments, companies constantly have to reevaluate. And while we're lucky that we haven't lost customers and actually we're starting to see a ton of interest in our solution, I don't think anybody in the software space outside of video conferencing sold much of anything over the past 3 months. So we spent that time really looking at our technology and seeing how we could address the problems of the day. COVID-19, racial justice to some extent, obviously, and urban unrest with the technologies we'd already had. And what we discovered is that we had a pretty basic intruder detection system that just looks for people. We don't analyze faces. We don't know who that person is. We can tell you with virtually perfect accuracy if there's a person in this video. And so what we did was we built analysis on top of that that says, oh, how close are the people together? Where are they? How many people are there? And so we can deliver that social distancing intelligence, that crowd detection intelligence in ways that help companies and organizations manage their space without getting into the pitfalls of facial recognition and all the types of bias that are so topical these days.
That's awesome. Kenya, did you have something?
No, I'm so blown away at like your thought process and just the creativity of this. I think it's really impressive and super smart of you to just really be creating in this space because obviously safety is super important for us. I mean, I work in New York City like a lot of us do. And, you know, we have a lot of people that come in and out of the building. I know we do regular like safety drills, but I have to tell you, I mean, we've never been approached with anything of this magnitude that has been incorporated as far as what our strategy would be in the event that something would happen and how, you know, preventative ways to protect ourselves. So I think this is just, it's really phenomenal what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We're actually in discussions with a number of the most high-profile sites in Manhattan. We're actually based right next to Grand Central, so that's our home ground. And over the past few weeks, we've been operating some of our technology in the Bronx and helping protect some of the more hard-hit areas. So this is something we care really deeply about. And, you know, if iHeartRadio is interested, we're happy to have the discussion.
You've been doing this. When did you actually put maybe your first installation, hook up to the first camera somewhere with this AI software?
Yeah, so we've been in business for just over 2 years. And I would say that we first connected with one of our pilot customers, who's still one of our top customers, a school in urban Chicago, about 2 years ago. And since then, we've been focused on building out the core detection capabilities. And just this year, we've seen the business really take off.
And what is your marketing plan going forward? It sounds like you're doing a lot of outreach yourself, explaining the software, demonstrating the results. Is that, obviously you want to do more than that perhaps going forward?
Yeah, so I think like a lot of startups, we are a direct sales focused business, but the security industry heavily works through resellers. And over the past few months, one of the other things that we've been doing during the COVID-19 pause is reaching out to our reseller networks, really developing those relationships. And going forward, we see that as one of the core areas of our business. Directly, we will go to high profile sites and the US government, and our resellers will focus on international markets and smaller deployments for us.
I'll just make a comment and say it was great that you guys were able to take this step back and hit the pause button. Perhaps you would have liked to go a little bit more quickly to do that, but it was great to see you do that and take the time to rethink and look at your opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely can tell you that my sales team was not super happy the past few months, but for all the rest of us, especially on the technology side, we really enjoyed the experience of being able to step back and do something that we really felt made our offering a lot more complete and appealing to a larger swath of the market versus the real threat gun detection focus that we'd had before. So I completely agree with everything you said, Mark.
No, that's great, Ben. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Right. And as a consumer, as a mom, I could say, hey, school, look at putting this in our schools, right? So you can reach out to everybody. So this has been Ben Jomek with Actuate.ai, and just a fascinating company. And we have to go to break now. So you are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WOR 710.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Passage to Profit, as you may well know, with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt. We've had some really interesting topics of discussion this evening. First, with Marc Alterman, talking about manufacturing and business strategy and business planning. And then, in addition, we had Ben Ziomek, who talked a little bit about AI and identifying all sorts of things with smart cameras. So very, very nice to have them on the program so far. Our next presenter this evening is Natalie Barr from Empowered Cookies, and she's going to be talking about one of my absolutely favorite subjects. So welcome to the show. Tell us what you're doing.
Thank you. Definitely not in tech. We're in food over here. So the Empowered Cookie is a plant-based and gluten-free and grain-free cookie. And when most people hear that, they take a step back. They're like, oh, it must taste like cardboard. But our actual motto is that life is too short to eat cardboard. You should be able to eat food that is delicious for you and that you absolutely love. And so we're here to empower consumers to eat food that they look forward to and they feel nourishes their bodies. And we have 6 flavors of cookies that are sold single serving, and they're on everywhere on e-commerce such as Amazon and QVC, on off of our website and a variety of other retailers. Thank goodness for that in COVID times. But we're based in Oakland in the Bay Area, and so which is where I'm born and raised and started the company out here. And we sell in yoga studios and natural food stores and coffee shops and gyms and anywhere where people want to grab a healthy snack that's delicious.
So what's your best seller flavor-wise?
The double chocolate chunk.
What a shock.
I know, right? Yeah, we have, so our tribe consumer are people who live with food allergies. And so being able to reunite them with, oh my gosh, I can have dessert again is what brings us most joy. And so we have these thick chocolate cookies, the double chocolate chunk that tastes like a brownie. They have huge chunks of melty chocolate in them. And then the 2 other chocolate flavors are chocolate cherry and then chocolate walnut. And amazingly, there's people who can't have chocolate, these poor souls. And so we have 3 flavors that are for them. And there's ginger molasses and lemon lavender poppy seed, which is really popular, which is very like Sonoma County wine country vibe. And then raisin walnut, which is like the classic cookie you grew up with. So try to please everybody.
So how many calories per cookie?
Well, so we use almond meal and flax meal instead of flour. So the calories are like in the 230 for a big fat 3-ounce cookie. So it's like a breakfast cookie. It's the perfect thing to grab with coffee on your way out to work. Not that anybody's going and doing that nowadays, but it's the perfect thing to have before or after a workout. We sell at CrossFit gyms. It's really something that, you know, a mom can have when she's on her way home from her workout and wants to split it with her kid and feel good about the snack that she's sharing with them. And we cater to people who want to eat like a low inflammation diet. And so that means no grains. So the almond meal gives you your protein, gives you the soft, chewy, it keeps the cookies really moist. And you got to have that word. If a cookie is not moist, it's a cracker to us. And so it's really got to be something you look forward to. And that's the whole point. You know, living with food allergies is hard enough, and you don't want to insult people with some dry, stale loser cookie that they're like, great, I already feel limited, and this is overly priced, overly sweet, and really dry. So that's what we strive to move away from.
And there are loser cookies out there, by the way.
There's a lot. It's bothering me. That really launched the business. I was like, this is making a bad name for what we do over here. And again,
that's true, because a lot of people think of vegan food or like non-allergy food as cardboard. It's like rice cakes. Remember the plain rice cakes that are like eating styrofoam?
Oh
That's what people think of.
awful.
But have your sales been affected then by COVID? I take it you're in retail, hard retail stores.
Absolutely. We already wanted to build an e-commerce business because that's where actual profits exist, because selling in retail, the margins are so low and the food industry margins are already so low. So COVID just helped us slam on the e-commerce gas because more people are shopping online because they have to. More of us have had to set our parents up with grocery delivery because we don't want them leaving the house. And, you know, being able to serve people nationwide, because a lot of people live in a food desert, you know, where there's not a natural food store near you. And you're like, great, I'm over here living with a food allergy, or my child does, or we're just sitting on our butts all day trying to eat healthy, and they don't know where to find this food. And so we do sell nationwide, but our retail sales are tragic because the best places we sell at are closed for the foreseeable future. You know, gyms and coffee shops and places like that do better than grocery stores for us. And that's really where our consumer hangs out, is she's getting her workout, she's grabbing coffee, she's grabbing lunch. And so we're having to reinvent where we sell and how we intersect our customer.
That's great. And again, just like Ben, I see that you've taken the time and really had the necessity of trying to redirect your business a little bit over the last several months. I'm just curious, do you have specific goals and specific metrics, and how are you measuring the success of your efforts?
We measure it through growth. I want to see e-commerce month over month growth. Retail is, you know, the ugly stepchild right now, so I really am not looking at those metrics. But we are growing on Amazon with organic traffic, but we've just invested in who I consider an Amazon wizard to help in the back end and really like drive us to the top. Because when you type in gluten-free cookie right now, we're pages deep. And so the way that we measure growth is by being able to see we are acquiring new customers, our email list is growing, we have a high return rate on the website, we have a low bounce rate, we have like people spending more money on the website on cookies. You know, we have people spending over $200 on a cookie order in stock up mode, which is great. It's great to see people in Nebraska reaching for healthy, you know, cookies. I'm happy to see the world moving in that direction. And I think that if you sell online right now and you're not seeing growth, you should be worried. Like, I would be really worried if my business wasn't seeing e-commerce growth. And we did launch on QVC this year. And so that's not exactly an avenue I expected cookies to go wild on. It's more of like selling blow dryers and vacuums and stuff is what I consider when I hear QVC. But it's been an incredible growth partner for us, and me really opening up to how many consumers across the country want this type of food but don't know where to find it, and they want a trusted resource to find it through. So just being creative with like thinking in the footsteps of our consumer where she is and trying to meet her there. And QVC has been a great partner for us in that way.
I am your consumer. I'm a fitness trainer in New York City, now more so virtually. I've been doing all my classes online, and I am like that girl, right? So I'm the one, I love sweets. I love cookies. I know I can't eat regular cookies. So this is perfect for me because it seems so healthy, and it's like I'm on the go and always running. So it's like perfect for me to like pop a cookie before a workout or after a workout to recover. one of the things that I saw on your website that I really, really liked that you said is you are helping to improve America's food system. And I think that is so key because I feel like we live in a very great country, but we have just such a crappy system of food that is been so problematic for us. And it's really disturbing. So I love to see brands and products that are coming to the table to really create solutions in that space, because food is really 80% of everything that we are. And then I tell people like the workout piece is the other, 20%. So I'm happy to see you're creating something in that space. It's funny when you were talking about there are some other brands on the market that are, trying to do what you're doing, but they're not really doing it as well. I'm not going to mention a name, but I loved this one cookie forever and ever and ever. And then I noticed I was experiencing some inflammation and it was like affecting me. And I definitely feel like I have some sort of food allergy that I probably need to get like diagnosed, but thinking because on the package it said that it's, it's this, it's that, it's this and that. And then the ingredients aren't really matching up with what is being marketed is very problematic, I think, in the health food space. So I'm happy to see that there's actually a solution in the market that super serves the cookie space, but also is real in what it says it delivers. Because I have had problems with other brands that claim that's what they do, and then my body reacts differently to what's on the label.
How do we find your cookies?
You can go to empoweredcookie.com. And that's where you can buy them. If you just want to check us out, see our flavors and our branding, you can go to empowered.cookie on Instagram and check us out there. You can go find us on QVC if you're a QVC shopper.
Your packaging is great, by the way. Like it's very, like you're very well branded, and it seems like you definitely am off to a phenomenal start in that space.
Like in our logo, it says "Flex Your Power," and that's what we're trying to get trademarked right now. And consumers should see that their grocery cart is an incredible vehicle for change. Social change, environmental change, and people are waking up more now to the racial change that we can impart with understanding how, the farmers that grow our food need to get paid equal wages, and food is just inherently political. And it also can be such a way to, have a part of your day where you feel like you belong to a community. And so the empowered cookie is interpreted by consumers in a way that makes them feel, they can and do make a difference. Every time you put your fork to your mouth and put a product in your cart, you're shaping the food system.
So that is a great message. It's been a delicious segment. Natalie, thanks for coming. And
he wants $200 worth now.
I want $200 worth of cookies because great to have you on. And we look forward to your business growing and taking off and helping the food chain. And we hope you do all sorts of wonderful things. So you're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt. We'll be right back with our third and final presenter after this message.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WOR 710. If you're just tuning in, you've missed some amazing presenters. It's just like a really incredible show. We always get such different things.
I'm hungry.
I know. Our last one was cookies. But we have a really cool one coming up now, too. Sherry Hammond has Inspired Product Development Company. And I went on your website, Sherry, and your products are like amazing. So tell us all about it.
Oh, thank you very much, and thanks for having me. Inspired Product Development Group is just that. We develop products. I'm in business with my father. We're a father-daughter inventing entrepreneurial duo, and we develop products for the home that solve problems and inspire you to get organized and tackle those DIY projects on your own.
Great. So give us some examples of some of the products that you've worked with.
So Inspired Product Development Group was actually started in 2017, and we have 2 products currently on the market. Our goal is to develop and launch 1 product every year. It's a pretty aggressive goal. The first product we did is called the Cabinet Caddy, and it's an organizational caddy for your kitchen cabinets, and it adds a layer of vertical storage in there. So when you you've got a tight space like your kitchen cabinets, your spices. I'm 5'4", and so getting in my spice cabinet and reaching back to the back to get that small little cinnamon spice, and I would knock everything down, and a glass bottle fell on my toe, and I said a few explicatives. But this cabinet caddy, it has 2 shelves, and you pull out and rotate, and it actually presents your spices to you. And it's a way to not organize the large, wholesale club spices. Those you can find. It's the little ones and stuff that you lose back in the corners. So this actually is great for spices, prescriptions, supplements, essential oils, anything, fingernail polishes, anything that you have a lot of and that you'd like to organize.
Well, that sounds great. It sounds like a safer alternative to getting up on the step stool and reaching in the wrong spot. So how did the idea come to you? Was it your idea, or did you work with somebody else who had the idea first? How did that evolve?
Again, this problem solving, we try to build a better mousetrap. I had this horrible issue with my height and trying to organize my spices, and I have a picture before and after on my website, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So our method of developing products is understanding the space. Who are you trying to market to? When there's a problem, you go out there and you see what's out there. So yes, there are some products out there that will move, in cabinets, and these wire racks that will pull and roll out and kind of bring these to you. We wanted something that would rotate around, really take advantage of that vertical space and add another layer of storage in your kitchen cabinet, and it rotates around and presents those items to you.
Really interesting. And I looked at your website last night and showed it to my wife, and you'll probably be seeing an order from us pretty soon. So we're looking forward to that. So it was worth coming on the show today. But really, my question for you, Sherry, is in this world of COVID that we're in now, how's your supply chain? And are you able to maintain that? Have you had to consider looking at alternate vendors for things that you're purchasing?
Well, we have a wonderful relationship with our manufacturer who bases out of Hong Kong, but obviously manufactures in China. And it's all about communication. Right just before COVID, we had an order. We're going to do a QVC launch here very shortly for the Cabinet Caddy, and QVC had ordered all their product, and COVID hit in China 3 weeks, 4 weeks earlier than it did for us. And so their factories completely shut down, and we were scrambling and trying to figure out what we were going to do. Of course, everybody has been so understanding and giving grace and everything throughout this whole process. But really, communication is the key, and we ended up being on track, getting everything on schedule, and we were able to get the product out the door. Reordering and placing new orders has been a bit of a challenge. The Cabinet Caddy is pretty much sold out because of COVID. Our Amazon sales went through the roof. Our own website sales increased as well, and as a result, we're out of the Cabinet Caddy. However, QVC has some, and that launch is coming up, so we're pretty excited about that.
I was listening. It's funny because we're all quarantined, and I become I think the most domesticated I've ever been in my life.
I can't imagine you domesticated.
That's just how I am, right? I don't do much cooking, but now I'm doing a lot more things because I'm home and we have to eat. But I think it's interesting. This is definitely a time where there's a lot of cool innovation that's just coming to the marketplace that's making people's lives a lot easier at home. So I definitely love to learn about things like this, because I feel like, God, there's so many things you just don't realize that are out there, or you don't think of, that can be, just help life be a little bit more convenient. So congrats to you for your success with the Cabinet Caddy and everything else that you've been creating and innovating in this space, because I think it's an important one, especially now that we're all home and have just not had many options up until this point.
it's a great opportunity now with the quarantine to reorganize your cabinets, right? So, I mean,
Oh, for sure. I need one. I have this one cabinet. It's just a bunch of stuff. Like I'm sure there's like spices in there, vitamins in it. I just need it needs a cabinet caddy. So no, this could be perfect.
You have the one product, but you have other products on your website as well, right? So you and your father are inventing. You're like the inventors, the inventor brains, right? So what is that?
So this is our newest product is called Go Hang It. It's a picture hanging and leveling tool that comes with 85 pieces of picture hanging hardware in the kit. And this little level pops off. You can set it on top of your frame, get it all level, and mark your nail holes. The cool thing about this product is that, the problem is that when you get a frame, sometimes the hardware won't be mounted properly on the back, or you've put it on yourself and it's a little bit askew. And so when you go to hang it on the wall, you have no way, because it's to the back and you can't see it, no way to identify exactly where those nails or screws need to go on the wall. Well, we've solved that problem. So again, I'm a single mom. I have a 12-year-old son. I wanted to hang this collage of his awards and sports pictures and stuff like that. And by the time I hung 3 pictures, I was about to pull my hair out and I had about 30 holes in the wall. And I said, there has to be a better way. So we've developed this unique system of identifying. We have these little magnetic keys. I don't know if you can see these. They're teeny tiny. There they are. These little magnetic keys, and they fit in the back of your sawtooth hanger. So it goes just like that. And that has a positioning point. And when you put it on the wall and you push, it marks your nail holes. It's a very simple concept, but it works like a charm. And it's our newest product. We just got our container in February, and things are picking up and looking pretty good.
So you're able to ship that now?
Yes, absolutely.
So you have been heard a little bit on some of your products but you were able to get enough of them before the quarantine hit that you're able to sell. So what are your plans? Are you going to try to maybe then just sell everything through Amazon, through your website? What are your plans going forward? Do you have back to Mark, do you have a strategy?
Well, COVID really pulled the rug out underneath us just before the International Housewares Show. And that was canceled. I had my flights. We were going. We had this new booth designed, and we were on the Shark Tank aisle and had it teed up. We had meetings set, and it was going to be like super exciting. I felt like it was the launch of our company, and just yanked the rug right under us, didn't they? I thought, when this first happened, that this was going to be a super challenging for us to continue sales and all that kind of stuff. But, people just started shopping online, and that opened up doors for us that we couldn't have even imagined. We have been so blessed through this whole process. Yes, we're waiting on a container of the cabinet caddy to get in, and there are some delays there, but all is well. And we have a second product that Go Hang It, and next year we're working on a cabinet caddy Gen 2. So we're always trying to better ourselves and really continue to solve those problems and create things for the home that solve problems for you and that you will absolutely love.
That's wonderful. We're coming to the end. Any final advice, Mark?
Well, I think what's great about what they've done is they've set a goal for themselves of creating a new product every year. And I think that's really great to continue along those lines. And the advice that I would give is to identify the steps that you have to take and the time frame that you have to take each year in order to attain that objective. But I think it's great. They're really innovative products and useful, and I look forward to trying some of them myself.
Well, thank you. You're listening to Passage to Profit, the Inventors Show on WR 710. We will be right back.
Well, welcome back, listeners. Such a great show this evening, wasn't it? And but before we go, I just want to ask Elizabeth, what's going on with Fireside?
Fireside, as I mentioned before, I was videotaping people for a video directory of small to medium business. And I was doing it in our studio in Summit. And when COVID hit, I pivoted to Zoom, which is actually kind of easier because people are used to using Zoom. So I'm trying to build the site right now. So I'm just trying to get as many people on there as I can, and I have all different types of businesses, which is fine. If I can really grow it how I want to, I'll split it up later. I'm getting really great businesses on here, and as soon as I get about 50, then I'm going to start on the other side of the business and start trying to drive people to the site, to the YouTube channel and to the site. But I am getting activity now, and I joined a chamber and gave a presentation there, and I'm getting people from the chamber, and people enjoy doing these short Zoom videos, and they have a place to put them. And people actually tell me they like watching people's videos. So it's like a mini Passage to Profit with just me and the other person. But my vision, to go to our guest today, Mark, is that this will be like the video Wikipedia of small business. So that's it.
That sounds great. And thanks for the update. And why don't we wrap up a little bit and let our audience know where they can find information about our guests and our presenters.
Absolutely. So Marc Alterman was our guest, and he strategizes for small and medium-sized companies, and it's ma33strategies.com. We had Kenya Gibson here from Iheart Media, so you can go to Iheart Media and look up Kenya Gibson. She's Kenya Gibson at iheartmedia.com. We had Ben Jomek with actuate.ai, and honestly, go to his website. And if it's kind of higher level B2B, but if you're a mom and you want your school, or if you want your organization to adopt it, look at what he's got and take it to the people in charge, because this is truly a technology of the future. And we had Natalia Barr with empoweredcookie.com. So check those out. They are really popular. They're flying off. Well, they were flying off the shelves. Now they're flying off Amazon, flying off the internet. And Sherry Hammond with Inspired Product Development Group. That's inspiredpdg.com. And she has products that just make everyday living easier for people, right? So they're home products, but they're like, why didn't I think of this?
Mark and Kenya, do you have any final words before we wrap things up?
I just wanted to say it was a real pleasure learning about the businesses that Ben and Natalia and Sherry have, and really just want to commend them for their versatility and seeing the opportunities that have been presented in really difficult times over the last few months and being able to pivot their businesses successfully. So good luck, and I look forward to seeing more things from all of you.
I love to see people creating in a space where there's just really simple solutions. And I love things and products that really just, create a better quality of life for people. So, again, just kudos to everyone and your innovation and your thought process into creating products and solutions for people to be able to use in real time, especially now with everything that we're going through. So good luck with everything.
Listeners, the show goes on. Thank goodness for our excellent producer, Noah Fleischman, who can take these Zoom recordings and actually make them into something that can go on iHeartRadio. So we are producing new radio shows every week. So tune in next week for another excellent guest and another excellent round of presenters. You never know what you're going to hear, but you can bet it's probably something you haven't heard before.
In a positive way.
In a positive way.
And don't forget, to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt on iHeartRadio with Passage to Profit, WOR 710, the voice of New York.